Hi, welcome back. It's Chris and Elizabeth, and we're very excited to have our next guest with us.
We have Frank Schaeffer with us, New York Times bestselling author, and just a great person. We're so honored to have you with us. And I see behind you, you've got a poster for your new book. I love it. Tell us all about your new book, November 2nd, right?
Yeah, it comes out November 2nd, and it's my 12th or 13th, 14th book. I started writing novels back in 1990 with Portofino, that then led to a trilogy of novels, Saving Grandma, Zermatt. And I was very lucky to be given permission by the success of those three novels to become a writer. So they did well. They're published in about 9-10 languages. They've been out there for a long time. I've had a couple books that sink like a stone in a pond, never to be seen again. I've had a couple of bestsellers helped along by Oprah, who put me on for one book of mine called Keeping Faith, a father-son story about love in the United States Marine Corps. And then Terry Gross on Fresh Air, who interviewed me for an hour about a book that I wrote, a memoir called Crazy for God, about my growing up in the evangelical community, becoming part of the religious right, the whole marriage of the Republican Party to far-right white nationalist Christianity, and why I left all that. And then my new book, Fall in Love, Have Children, Stay Put, Save the Planet, Be Happy, really draws on my experience of the last 12 years, where my life has been centered around childcare. Not as a parent, I have 3 grown children, but as a grandparent of 5 grandkids, 3 of whom live literally across the street up the road here. As soon as I'm done this podcast, I'm doing a school pickup. I've already planned the snack I'm going to cook for Nora, who's 7 this evening. She's the only one who's little now. The other 2 are in school, longer and a little further away from here. And that really changed my life, because getting a second bite at the apple, I know that Chris, you do life coaching. Well, one of the things I found with this experience is the ability to do what I'll call reparenting myself. The second time around, doing things the way I wish I had known when I was a teen father, all those years ago, 50 years ago as a teen father, what I know now, and also just as a changed person, someone who is not an angry fundamentalist Christian who grew up in a Calvinist background where men were supposed to be in charge and women were supposed to be obedient to them, all this nonsense I was raised with that I long since left. My life coach has been Jeannie, my wife. I've been with 52 years. And by the way, and I'm just mentioned something personal here, and it's all fine, but the last 4 days have been really hellish because Jeannie had a mild heart attack. We're both 70 and was in Beverly Hospital getting really good care, had a stent put in, and I was scared, speechless. So I spent the last 3 days with her in the hospital room every day. I don't, I admit that it's kind of floored me. And right now I feel ebullient because Jeannie and I just had a great lunch and she's home and the stent is working and her heart was not damaged. But terror does not describe my feeling. So on any day I can talk about Fall in Love, Have Children, Stay Put, Save the Planet, Be Happy, that has concentrated the mind on what I really mean by this book, which is your whole idea about what success is. Success is not career. Success is not money. Success is not prestige. Success is not power over others. Success is what, to make it really personal, and I'm getting tears in my eyes, what you see in the eyes of the person you love most, or the children you love, or the people you work with who trust you, and the love you receive from them, and the love you are able to give them. And what you see mirrored there is the truth about you. All the rest is BS, and that's my vision of success. That's what the book is about, and really has 2 threads running through it. Personal stories about taking care of my grandchildren, which I think appeal to anybody who has ever done caring for anybody, whether it's an aged mother or professionally as a nanny or a teacher or as a parent or grandparent. And then the science to back it up, because I got so deep into this project. It was supposed to take 1.5 years, 2 years like my other books take to write, and it's taken almost 6, because finally COVID came and I rewrote the whole book to become a sort of a blueprint on how to get back to what we want to really be doing and don't accept the old normal. And then I have sciencey friends, actually all women, it happens in this book, who teach at university level, who study brain science and related subjects of evolution and psychology. And I sent them the book and they liked it, but they kept sending me reading lists saying, yeah, but you got to read this first. You got to read this first. So turned into a 5-year project, 27 drafts, and finally HCI Books picked it up. And now it's coming out November 2nd. stories about Lucy, Jack, and Nora, Jeannie and me and the childcare, our story throughout as parents and grandparents, combined with the science of love. Love is a thing. It's not a feeling. It exists in your brain in terms that can be measured by hormones, by brain scans, and all sorts of other things. So that's the book. And really, the book asks a question: how do you define success? That's what the book is about. What is success? And how you define success is who you will be. If you think it's about job title, then you'll move to get more money, no matter what. And if you leave your family behind, tough. If you think it's about love and sharing, you're going to nurture your community and the people you were with. If you think it's about your position in life and how you're branded in terms of your business, you're going to treat people one way. If you think it's about family connections and friendly connections and the survival of the friendliest rather than the survival of the fittest, you'll live a different way. So it's a plea for us to change our culture, change our priorities, change our definition of success so that we thrive and are happy, because no one is happy in terms of the kind of success that our culture calls achievement. What makes people happy is the quality of our personal relationships, our interactions with others, our generosity of spirit, and how we perceive the world in others. That's it. There is no other road to happiness unless you are either a sociopath or in some other way deranged and a dangerous person. Most people, 99% of people, gay, straight, non-binary, white, black, married, unmarried, pair bonded, unpair bonded, doesn't matter. If you're someone who judges your ambition as to relating well to other people and caring for them and receiving care from them, you're on a totally different path than the person who thinks that success can be measured in owning your own personal rocket or having thousands of people work for you or starting a company like Facebook. If that's your idea of happiness, you're going to wake up when you're about my age, pushing 70 years old, and you're going to realize, wow, I have eaten the wrapper and thrown out the candy. So that's what Fall in Love, Have Children, Stay Put, Save the Planet, Be Happy is about.
I'm so glad you're here. I am. I'm so sorry to hear about your wife.
Thank you. It's been tough, bad few days. And this is the
very.
first thing I've done since it all happened. And I said to Jeannie, should I be doing this? And she says, go do it. I'm better. I'm fine. Let's get back to normal here. So we had a nice lunch, and I had an extra cup of coffee, and I'm sitting here talking to you and enjoying it because it happens that your podcast is exactly about what my book is about.
Yeah.
Perfect. So hi, shout out to Jeannie. Hi, we're so glad.
Shout out to Jeannie.
Shout out to Jeannie. And when you're making snacks this afternoon, make 2, Frank. I'm coming over.
Absolutely.
I was thinking about when my father was ill from 2004 to 2018, and especially in the very last part of him being ill, the terror look in my mom's eyes of like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And that just feeling of, and when he died, one of the things that I did was I spent a whole lot of time extra from Maine to Minnesota with my mom and just stayed there.
Yeah.
Make sure she was going to be okay. And I don't know where I'm going with that. I just want to share it, I guess, because it's just, people are so important to us all. And I know that feeling of that scared when somebody doesn't feel well, and that's life threatening.
Very.
So
my son John took her to the hospital.
Yeah.
And then texted me saying, I'm on the way to the hospital with Mom. And I was so confused, like, Mom, what? Like, Jeannie was fine. What are you talking about? I just saw her a little while ago. And then when he got there, he texted and said, well, they've done an electrocardiogram and, she's fine, but they're going to keep her and do some more tests. They waited to tell me until I got there that the blood test had come back and the enzymes were showing she had had a heart attack, because he knew I'd just crashed the car. I mean, how was I supposed to get there? Because I would literally be, Jeannie and I have been together 52 years. I got her pregnant when we were 17 and 18. So my life and her life converged when we were children, and we are now best friends and literally are the only people around who understand each other because we've had the whole journey together. Not every relationship is like that, but in our case, the loss would be the same as it is for anyone else, plus the fact that this is literally my oldest friend. Yeah. So it was just, it's not even, I can't compute and it had, so Jeannie, I learned something very interesting about her, that again, this is way too personal in some ways to share. It's not a revelation, but it's fresh. It's so fresh in my mind. When she came out of anesthesia, having had a 2-hour procedure to put the stent in and examine her heart with all the things they do, putting wires through her veins and up, through her wrist and in, and they'd marked up artery points where they could get in at an ankle and the groin. And then they decided to go through her wrist, which is great because it's, easier. And I said to her, when she came out, as she was being wheeled back to her room, I was walking with her. And I asked Jeannie how she was, and she said she was feeling okay. And I said, were you feeling afraid? And I don't know why I asked her that. And she said, yes, I did feel afraid. But then I was lying there thinking what a wonderful life I've had and feeling so grateful as I went to sleep. And I thought, wow, that's the woman I married, but that's also, imagine a better statement of a sense of a life well lived. I mean, how do you better that? Mm-hmm. So it really moved me. I wasn't sitting there thinking how grateful I was. I was so grateful to have her back, but it just moved me here's this woman who turned 70 last year and has 3 kids and a Marine who fought in Afghanistan and came back safe, and had our 3 youngest grandchildren, who lives across the street. And we do childcare for Lucy, Jack, and Nora. And that's what the book is about. But that was unprompted. And she was still woozy. You know what I'm saying? Truth serum. It's like, what were you really thinking about? This wasn't something she figured to say. Mm-hmm. It just came spontaneously. But I was lying there thinking about what a wonderful life I'd had and how grateful I am. She wasn't talking about career. She was talking about life. And I just thought, wow, that's it. I mean, that's the message of my book. Anytime you can make a choice to be in that line and join Jeannie in that sense of gratitude, do it.
That's beautiful. And I can relate so much to you, and that for our listeners, most of our listeners know that I lost my spouse last year. Ben died from cancer. We were both 44. And the silver lining, and you just hit the nail on the head for me when you were saying the time that we could spend together. Now I'm getting teary. I stayed home and cared for Ben in the 5 months. We only had 5 months from diagnosis until he passed away. Yeah. But every day we were together, and every day he was at home with me. And those 5 months I just cherish so much. The conversations and the time and different things and the gratitude that spills out of me. And it was one of those shifts that if the world hadn't shifted and changed with how the virus impacted my job, I like to think that I would have stopped everything and stayed home. And I was a little bit obviously forced into stopping everything, but then being able to stay home and be with him. And when you talk about success being the people in your circle and the people that you love, and seeing you tear up about Jeannie, but she's still alive and well, and bless her for that just, I'm just sitting here. My heart is like bursting out of me with the, like I'm going, yes, Frank, yes, that is what it's about.
Well, Chris, tell me a little more about how you met him. What was his name?
His name was Ben, and we actually met on an online dating site, and we went for a coffee. And I love the story. He said, I always remember when you walked in, you had a blue sweater and you were wearing glasses. And I thought, oh, that's a very intelligent lady. And then we had this coffee. And he said, as soon as I met you, and we only met for an hour, because I was very nervous about online dating. And I said, I'm only giving an hour in case we don't hit it off. I don't want to have an awkward, how do I leave? And I actually made plans with my sister's child, my niece. I said, I have to go swimming with my niece at 3. So I can only stay for this hour. Yeah. And he said, as soon as you left, I thought, I need to find a way to see this woman again. And I felt the same. And so very quickly, we it was almost instant. And we just, after that moment, we were together and doing things. The first time I brought him to my sister's, my little niece, she was 4, she looked up at him and she said, are you my new uncle?
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah. So. Yeah,
that's beautiful. And I'm so sorry that happened. We've just met here for the first time, but that's very, very hard. And I'm really sorry.
Thank you.
But I'm glad that you have a sweet memory of all that, and that the hardness is the loss, and not second thoughts about the choices you made and everything else. And, what a wonderful story too,
something really neat about us too, I think you'll love this, Frank, is maybe 4 years ago, we both quit our high paying jobs. I left the corporate world and he left working up north on the rigs, and we bought a small house, 600 square feet. And we gardened, and I started life coaching, and I taught art classes on the side. And we were like, what's important to us? We want to spend time together even before he got sick. We want to spend our time helping those that we love. And we didn't have children by choice, but we have tons of children in our lives and families who needed our love and help injected in, much like you are doing with your grandchildren. We were doing things for my nieces and nephews, his nieces and nephews, our friends' children. And that was something that brought us so much joy. And we were free and able to do that because of the choice to be a simpler life, and because of the choice that we already knew we wanted to spend more time together. Because I would be on a plane to Colorado and he would be up north, and then we'd miss each other like ships in the night. And we were like, this isn't what we want, that we're not feeling success with money and driving for that. And so we made that shift. And now, again, that's another blessing. And it has impacted my whole life. And the decisions I do with Elizabeth and what we do to at Best Ever You, I'm like, if we can just impact and help people, that's what I want to do all day long. So
well, I feel like you've sort of described a big chunk of what I talk about in the book, because you'll be interested to know that one of the things I do in the book is point out that we are all parents, and that includes people who have not had children by choice. In fact, I have a shout out in my book for people who don't have kids by choice. And I say one of them is my oldest son, Francis, who's a teacher in high school, does physics and math. And I said he has hundreds of children. I meet their parents, they have tears in their eyes because they say, you know, when Francis does extra coaching in math for my son or my daughter or whomever it is, do you know that he always cooks him lunch before he tutors him on the weekend, free of charge, just to help, and that he doesn't ever tutor without feeding the kid first and taking time. And they tear up when they tell me what it's done for their kids to turn their lives around and help them in the subject and get into the college of their choice. So my son, Francis, who's single by choice, does not have children by choice, is as much of a parent as I am, and a grandparent too, because now it's into the next generation. He's been doing this long enough so that he has kids coming back to his high school where he teaches who have graduated from some fancy college, and they come back to help him set up, say, a robotics program for kids or something else because they remember how much he helped them. So it all comes around. And so one of the things I point out in the book is that when I talk about parenting, I mean what you're doing with me right here and what Elizabeth is doing right here. I have a book. What do good parents do for their children? They help them take their projects out and encourage them. And you're a life coach, Chris, as well. So interestingly enough, when you read my book, when you see the title, Fall in Love, How Children Stay Put, Save the Planet, Be Happy, it's kind of a traditional title, but it's a traditional title on purpose, because I want people to get into the book and soon realize as they read it that I'm talking to everybody, that we are all parents. I'm urging everyone to fall in love, and not romantically necessary, but with the idea that our relationship is a loving relationship with other people before trying to get something out of them or whatever it may be. So actually, the book, whether it's for a non-binary person or a gay adoptive parent or a single person or someone who has remained without children deliberately, or who had some trauma in their past and is working it through, whatever that may be, I have tried to address this idea of falling in love and having children as a universal principle of caregiving. And there are two lines: you're either a caregiver or you aren't. So, you know, the caregiver in a supermarket who sees someone ahead of them with a trolley full of cart full of groceries and they can't pay, there's too little money, you know, makes up the difference. And then of course, all the studies show that that actually lights up your brain far more than anything you could buy. Helping other people really does make us happy. And I think it's very similar with someone like you, who is taking the loss you had in your life, Chris, and flipping it and becoming a caregiver of other people who can pass on some of that mercy and wisdom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for saying such kind things about me. It does resonate, and I do feel called to serve others.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that, you know, when we look at success, I think that how we treat others and what we do in our lives is just paramount. And and all the things, like, you know, you were talking about everyone being a parent, like you are an actual parent, and Elizabeth has 4 children, but the community surrounding that, that's a really special place I'm honored that you include people like me who don't have kids.
Well, and I don't include them in a sort of a, some of my best friends are Jewish kind of throwaway line, how people do. I include them in the sense there's whole passages in the book talking about why this is so. And so it goes from the first page in the book through to the end to really, it isn't like an afterthought. It is part of my argument. If you hear a dog barking, that's Zip. You're going to meet him in 10 seconds. Give me the 10 seconds.
Okay, sure. No problem.
These two. So I just love him and his book and his work and so forth. He's just, I met him. He's an HBI author. And I met him.
I can't leave. Look at this little guy.
Oh, good. We got to go get puppies.
I can't leave him outside barking.
What's his name?
Zip.
Zip. Hi, Zip.
Zip, say hello to your fans. He can't see you. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah, we announced earlier today we make as much noise and do whatever you got to do, and everybody just.
That's it. So and talking to you both, it's so interesting to me because how you have kids, Elizabeth, and I forget we met so briefly the last time in a thing with our publisher where you're being published by HCI Press too. And I remember you said you had children, but forgive me, I forgot their ages.
So they're 20, 22, 24, and 26. Thank you for asking. And we're a blended family. I had 2 children coming in from a previous relationship. And so my husband has been their father since they were 2 and 3.
Excellent.
And so we've been married a long time. And one of the reasons why I am one of your biggest fans is because we made a decision a really long time ago against the grain, and it was very tough to both operate our businesses from this house. And so we're human beings. For me, I think it was easier because it was like, okay, I'll watch the kids and you're working in that kind of more traditional type of thing.
Sure.
My husband took a little bit of flack for it. It's like, what are you doing? And, but he vowed to not miss, he's just the coolest dad. He vowed to not miss programs and baseball games and birthdays and events and even back that up, just moments of them waking up in the morning or going to sleep at night or just being there. And so I think that's so, I love your message from that standpoint. I think people need to hear it more.
Yeah. And, it's such a shame that we live at a weird moment of history because it is weird where men have been taken out of the caregiving process. Our dumb culture pitches that as a traditional male role. Actually, it shows they've read no science. They know nothing about the history of agriculture, for instance. I grew up in a small farming village in Switzerland, and I was born in 1952. And it might as well have been in the Middle Ages in the sense that, when I was a kid, there were horses and not tractors, that kind of thing. It was really, really old times, small, the maybe 300 people, and the cows outnumbered the people 10 to 1, and so on. But the fact is, if you looked out in the field, there was no men's and women's work. There were families working together. So the women were out there helping load the hay cart with the children. The grandparents were sitting up in the shade of some old big beech tree taking care of the toddlers. This was the norm. Yeah. The norm was families were together. If there were people who were unattached, unpair bonded, they were folded in. There was the uncles, the aunts, the people in the family, in the village, close by, walking distance always. Wasn't perfect, but nobody was sitting there thinking about work in terms of gender roles or childcare. If you look back at our hunter-gatherer period of evolution that I've been studying in terms of this book, the overarching theory of the survival of the fittest is totally wrong. And all the new science is pointing in a totally different direction, and that is cooperation and community. And they've coined a new phrase. In fact, there's even a book out by somebody else on this subject that I quote in the book called The Survival of the Friendliest. And this is not Oprah, say, be nice to everybody, or trying to get people to be nice because Jesus said so. This is really hard science, saying we got it totally wrong on the survival of the fittest. The only reason we're still here is because people were more caregiving than they were, say, warriors or killers or rapists. If that had been everybody, the 3 of us wouldn't be talking now. We're here because someone cared somewhere in our ancestral history again and again and again. And of course, because women gestate for 9 months and then their babies are all born premature. All female humans bear premature children because our heads are too big to be born in full gestation like other primates. It means we have a long socialization raising process that other mammals do not share. And so the idea that somehow men were not part of this is absurd, because no female can raise a child by herself, even if she's a single mom. You need the cousin or the aunt or the friend or the father or the boyfriend or the lesbian lover or the village. It really does take a village. Always has, always will. Only in the modern construct of shareholder type profits and business have we got this insane idea where we lock ourselves in glass towers called offices or factories, cut off from the rest of the family. So the weird thing is, I wrote this whole book and then COVID hit, and it was like some giant, or foreordained social experiment where it said, okay, we're going to make everybody more or less do for a year what Frank Schaeffer's talking about in his book, and that is slow down, stay put more, take care of the people in your life. Some hated it, some loved it. But if you look at what's happening now with all the articles in every single publication in the country, or the TV shows, people are quitting their jobs. They don't want to go back. They're demanding higher pay. They're asking to work from home. My son, for instance, renegotiated his managerial job in a high-tech company, said, I'll come to the office one day, maybe 2 a week. That's it. Otherwise, I'm looking for a new job. I'm now used to being home more with my children. And he's typical. He's not atypical. Women like my daughter, who's a CEO of a company in New York, by the way, had her kids, raised them through school age before she went into business. And in her talking as a businesswoman who's very successful, tells people, look, I get sick of people who tell me I shouldn't include my family experience as part of my CV, as part of my qualifications. I've learned more from being a mother and a wife and in a relationship than I did from the business.
I struggled with that so much.
Yeah.
Like my resume, I'm like, what do I put on this?
So much value in that. And I'm going to just take the minute to say we're in our last minute. I'm sorry, Frank, we would love to talk with you all day. You're just so engaging, and everything you say is so nail on the head. We just love it. We appreciate your time with us today.
Thank you.
But beautiful. And we just want to leave you with our heartfelt thanks. And
thank you,
we just really appreciate it. It was really
and thank you, Elizabeth. And listen, anybody listening or watching, if you want to get in touch with me, I don't hide. My email is frankschaeffer@aol.com. And I have my own podcast where all podcasts are available, In Conversation with Frank Schaeffer. And listen, you both come on my podcast sometime and let's do this again, because we have too much in common to fritter it away.
Yes. That's what I thought before when I met you. And I hope you'll come back.
Anytime. Drop of a hat. You're, as they say in Italian, molto simpatico. You're very lovely people.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Hugs to you and hugs to Jeannie. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
Thank you.
Bye.